Perfect. All right, are you ready?
Now I'm ready.
What's up, Bopperz? Bopper gang. We're here with a very special nighttime edition.
Hello.
Little nightcap. We have Julia with us.
It's me, Julia from Gooetones.
Nice. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be here.
Of course. How was your day?
It was pretty good. Yeah. It was pretty low key. Just practiced some music, read some, and went to work.
Nice.
Yeah, typical day.
Cool.
Yeah, now I'm here. How was your day?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
Doing my marketing 9 to 5 grind, and then I do the Hannah Montana.
Yep.
Okay, so when did you first start playing music?
I have been playing music since I was a kid. I would say, I've always made up little songs and stuff. I was since I was very small, but I started playing drums. I think I was around 10 years old, and I would write, sad 10-year-old poetry and like write songs as a 10-year-old and stuff. But I didn't really play an instrument other than drums until I think I was around 13. I started learning guitar. So yeah, around 10 to 13 was really when I first got the bug. But I grew up in a musical family, so music's just been a part of my life since birth. Both my parents are big music fans too. My dad's a musician, so there were just instruments around.
Yeah, I was gonna say you must have really patient parents to have drums at such an early age. But
yeah, they're very understanding. Yeah, one of me being 10 years old, learning to play drums, and but my dad would sometimes get the guitar amp out and he would rock out a little bit too.
Yeah.
So,
was he in a local band?
So he is not from Memphis. He moved all around as a kid. But he is now.
Nice.
Ask Dylan, the band. That's the band name is Ask Dylan. They do like 80s Gen X college rock covers and stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I grew up with a dad in a hair metal band.
Awesome. Cool.
So yeah, totally know about getting the amp out in the garage and cranking them out.
Just feeling like, oh yeah.
But it's like, I feel like when I was a kid, I didn't appreciate listening to like classic rock and all of that stuff because I'm like, who cares? But now as an adult, I'm like, I'm really grateful that I had a musical parent that like taught me how to listen to music in a like special way, I guess.
Yeah, and I think there's especially for that kind of like era of popular music when like rock was the kind of aesthetic that pop music used in like the 60s through the 80s. It was very like album oriented for a period, and I feel that we're back in a more album oriented time. We were talking earlier about like Brat and stuff. Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess. Mm-hmm. Like it's about like the work. But I really think that in that era, there's an emphasis on that. I think there's a lot to be learned from that. There's definitely some doofiness sometimes, but it's camp, like I think it's fun. And I feel that, every few years, I kind of ebb and flow with it. There will be a year where I'm like, I'm really like digging into this like one, and my dad especially, but both my parents, still have all their albums and stuff. So when I was young, some of my earliest memories are like just digging through. I didn't even know how to play them. I would just dig through my dad's records or my parents' tapes and CDs, and I lost my point. But basically, I think there's a lot to be learned from that, and it can also just be fun. I every year or so I go through. I don't really dig this, and then the same song I'll hear a year later, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this hits me so hard. Like Fleetwood Mac. There was a long period where I was like not into Fleetwood Mac, and then it just flipped. One day I just heard, I always liked Go Your Own Way, but one day I just heard Dreams, and it just like hit different. Been a fan ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So where did you grow up? Are you from Memphis?
I am from Memphis, yeah. Born and raised.
Okay.
Small couple years where I lived in Illinois. I was very small, like 2 to 4, I think. But yeah, other than that, I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about how being in the Bible Belt, growing up queer and neurodivergent I think we can all say is a struggle. So how has that affected your like artistic journey?
I feel they're pretty intertwined, pretty interwoven. To go with the classic rock thing, a lot of, kind of messing with gender and androgyny, and messing with, you could even say, like, power roles, an artistic outlet, that was, rock music for me was a artistic outlet for that, growing up in in places like the Bible Belt, where it was not every single setting that I was in, but there were regular settings in my life that were just not really emotionally or even physically safe for people to even just be feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of found a cheat code in that way of, like, oh, but if you do it like the David Bowie way, it's cool. And there's a lot of power in that too. If you do it in the Mark Bolan way. But I was driven to art, in that way too, I think, because I felt simultaneously connected and disconnected, from others. I was pretty sensitive and bookish and feminine, but I did play sports. I wasn't great, but I had fun playing sports, like church league stuff. And it was just all about just finding those things that make people feel connected to a greater whole, whether it be the world or the world community, like humanity, what have you. And music was definitely that for me. Comic strips. I'm known to be a bit of a goofball, and I feel that I kind of developed that sense of humor just learning early that kind of outside perspective of things, kind of feeling like I'm on the outside looking in, and being able to switch between those two perspectives. I think it's important to develop a healthy sense of humor, and I feel that you really develop that in a place that's maybe more hostile to nonconformity, whether it's queer or feminine or etc.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so what is the meaning behind the name Gooey Tones?
The tones are gooey. um, I thought when I was, I've done music since I was very young, and I've collaborated with a lot of people, and I've written songs since I was young. But this was the first time where it was not that it's all about me, but it was, okay, this is my project. Like, this is specifically my outlet. I thought, well, what is art to me? I'm not just tied to one medium. Music is my main medium, but I find art to be just a series of angles of looking at things and examining things. And I work in different mediums, so I thought, what kind of applies to that? At the end of the day, what do I view my art as? And I thought, well, much like how a painter's palette, their palette might have a few different colors, but really it's just little piles of goo. And there's a canvas or whatever they're painting on, but in this example, a canvas. And it's really just like a sculptor might sculpt a rock into something they find beautiful or expressive. A painter will take these globs of goo and with a brush kind of smear them on a surface. But I've been moved to tears by paintings.
Yeah.
And I think of that with music too. Really, it's just wiggly air that can just make or break your day. It can open perspectives someone has never considered, hearing the right music at the right time. So I thought that's what I want it to be for me. And I know that's what it can be for other people, are gooey tones. I thought, how do I tone the goo? And so
that's so
I just went
cute.
with it. Thank you. Well, and I thought, and then I made all the domains, and I thought, this name is silly. I should change it. But I thought, like, no, just go with your gut. It felt good at the time. And what's a name, right? Like, it's more about the work anyway. Right. So, yeah.
Well, what are 3 words you would use to describe gooey tones?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
malleable, or I'll say adaptable. Adaptable, authentic, and empathetic.
I feel like those are attributes to yourself too.
Thank you.
Or how I feel like I would describe you.
That's very sweet. I appreciate that.
No problem. Okay, for people at home, can you define bubblegrunge?
Sure. So I would give you a clearer definition if I had a clearer definition of what it is. But bubblegrunge to me is a term that is used for things now. An example I usually use is like Soccer Mommy, and I love her stuff. That's more of like the modern thing of what people consider bubblegrunge, but I really feel this term also applies to a lot of a combination of influences, specifically from like the 90s. I think of it kind of goes with growing up queer and feminine in the Bible Belt, actually, of the kind of fun and bubbly and feminine. Think like bubblegum pop almost, but there's a bit of almost a weariness to it. There's a bit of, okay, I've kind of like worked to get here. You know, it takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable. It takes a lot of strength to lay your arms down if you have any, and to be gentle and expressive. And bubblegrunge to me is a term of bands that not just Riot Girl, but something from Babes in Toyland. I could even consider bubblegrunge, all the way to like Avril Lavigne, like years later. I think it's like a natural continuation of that. I would even go, my first words to describe Alanis Morissette would just be a great songwriter. But I would say that like Jagged Little Pill totally applies to the bubblegrunge thing. It's, you have your really cute Hello Kitty shirt, but it's scuffed up a little bit, and it's, you've worn it a few times, but it's still really cute. And that's how I think of it, is you're still wearing the pink, you're still having fun and being bubbly, but maybe you just got off work and you're going to the event, and maybe your cute boots are a little scuffed up, but you can still love them, and that doesn't detract from their beauty in any way. It's how I look at it. And I think of that sonically too. It's femininity to me is not just passivity or tragedy. It's also very powerful and very warm. And I find in those roaring, distorted guitars from the 90s that I feel that.
Yeah.
So that's how I would describe bubblegrunge.
That's awesome. And a great transition into your new single, Haphazard.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you could take this either way. I mean this as a compliment.
Okay.
But it sounds like when I first heard it, I was like, this should be in Scott Pilgrim.
That's so funny.
Like, it just put me in that vibe, and
cool.
like I was rocking out.
Awesome. But I love that.
I get what you're saying with the pink and like getting off work, because that's how I can visualize the song.
That's awesome. That is a huge compliment. I appreciate that. Scott Pilgrim is a big influence of mine. I saw it 5 times in the movie theater.
Perfect.
When it came out.
I was like, that could go either way. Some people don't like it, but
you don't. If you like a work, that doesn't mean you endorse the actions of the protagonist. Scott Pilgrim, the work is about how Scott Pilgrim's a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But that movie's a big influence on me.
Amazing.
And that's so funny that you say that. Yeah. I find that when I start writing a song, it kind of starts out sounding like a Sex Bob song, whether I want it to or not. That song, I'm so glad it is released now. It's a bit of a live favorite, and it's a favorite of mine too, to play live. And it's simple, and I wrote it to be simple and catchy and easy to learn. And it's a tribute to and an exploration of writer's block too. That was I had almost a year long bout of writer's block, and so I kind of took an outside perspective and thought, well, I can't write a song because I have writer's block, but if I had writer's block, what would I write about? And so I think that also gives it a kind of that outsider edge too. It's almost like a pop song about pop songs.
Yeah.
A simple song about keeping it simple.
It's also like punky.
Yeah, there's a big. It's kind of a love letter to a lot of the punk music that was my earlier influences too.
Yeah, like UK sounding a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's not from the UK, but I really influenced by like Lou Reed, and you know his stuff really influenced all of the UK stuff in the 70s. And I thought, I thought maybe it's not as hard edged as something like the Buzzcocks. But yeah, I wanted that almost like glam again with like the David Bowie, almost like 70s UK punk vibe. And the stuff back then had a little bit of a swing to it too, which I really strive for in my music, is keeping that danceability. And you can really just do that, but if it's got a good rhythm, people are going to dance to that. So I really thought with the writing of the lyrics and the music, just keep it simple. And that's kind of that punk mentality too. Just keep it simple, say what you want to say, and have fun with it.
Yeah, I think the repetition of certain lyrics or certain words too, it kind of gives it more emphasis on that meaning of the word and makes it kind of more powerful.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think so too.
And then you have another song with Purgatory Pressings. It's called Nowhere Man.
Yeah.
Okay, that song is badass.
Thank you.
And it's like so different from, I feel like, your other stuff.
Yeah, I really wanted to, and that goes with the kind of adaptable, amorphous sort of thing. That's the goo and the gooey tones, right? I thought like, well, let me take a left turn with this. As soon as I find myself committing to a pattern, I want to try something new.
Nice.
And so I thought, these songs I've been recording have had, I'm a drummer, so live drums.
You did live drums on that?
Not on Nowhere Man. On Haphazard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, whoa.
I believe Haphazard, it's all me except it's Tim Kitchens on bass.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a great bass player, great musician. Hi Tim. But but Nowhere Man, I thought, let's go with something more angular. Let's go with something that I don't usually do. Even how I produced it is different than what I've done before for Gooetones, because it's my first self-produced release, and I was very nervy about that, but I think it came together well. And I don't have any fancy VSTs for the producers out there. That's all stock. Okay, that's just up here. But I was working really hard at those limited parameters of like stock Ableton plugins, and just I know the basics of things like recording pretty well. So I thought if I make sure I have that solid foundation, then I can get a little wiggly with it. I got a little, with the synths, I wanted them to be pretty organic sounding. There's that break in Nowhere Man, the synth, and that's the thing too. There's synth. The synth is much more forward, and I was really excited to try that new sound. I've always listened to music like that, and particularly I've been listening to more music like what Nowhere Man sounds like in the past 2 years. So I thought, let's write something like that.
Yeah, that's really cool, and I feel like it's really interesting you being a drummer and then also kind of diving into like electronic world, because I feel like sometimes they can be so separate.
Yeah, I am not one of those drummers that hates drum machines. I love drum. They're just a different instrument. Yeah, is how I look at it. Is I love drum machines and I love sequencers, and I love the communication between the exact and the chaotic. I love the idiosyncrasy and chaos of analog, but I also love the perfect recreation of the digital. And I love just kind of that communication. So with Nowhere Man, I thought, let me take a step in the other direction rather than kind of leaning into my habit of being a stickler about live takes, all in one take, live drums, live instruments. I thought, well, let's use in the box. I think there's my voice on there, and then I have a DI guitar just plugged into the box there. But I think everything else is just sequence. I was just pointing and clicking, nice. Writing the music. But I mean, I love drum machines and sequencers and things. I think that, the possibilities are literally limitless.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I find it very inspiring.
It's really interesting. Let's talk about community.
Okay.
Because you are always out supporting artists on social media, really just all the time. And no, I think that's so important. Especially in Memphis, but how do you think community shapes your artistic journey, and why is that important to you?
Community, I'm going to start with that part first. Okay. Community is everything. Without community, there is nothing, especially in the arts, I think. I look at it as other people matter. We are all within ourselves, within each other. And I love when people support me, and I want to support other. It also helps that we are just so inundated with talent and great artistry here. And I only repost things I'm genuinely excited about, and we're really lucky to live in a place where every night there's something cool. Like I get so worked up having to pick what I'm going to on a single night. And we really have a lot of really good people here, a lot of kind people that are great artists, and I love giving them shout outs too whenever I can. I know I feel like such an old head saying this, but it's like, I've been playing music a long time. I've played in a lot of different genres with a lot of different people. And it really is just like making those genuine connections and giving people shout outs and doing someone a favor when you can. And I don't mean that in a transactional way either. I mean, like, of course I want to like give like so-and-so a shout out. Like, they're awesome and their art's awesome. So I want to give them a shout out, and I trust that they'll do the same for me, but they don't necessarily have to, whatever they feel. And that was the second part of the question. And I've forgotten the first part of the question.
I mean, I think you nailed it, honestly.
Great. I nailed it.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. I am a shy girly. Okay. So as someone who finds it hard to be perceived, or like someone that worries about what other people might think about their work or things like that, how do you stay true to yourself and stay true to your artistic vision?
I'm also okay. So I feel like I'm a shy girly. There's been a bit of contention in the house. I've been receiving accusations of being extroverted, and I am coming to accept it. I believe I was more introverted when I was younger, but I've grown more extroverted. I don't think that's a static thing. For being true to yourself, I really think I don't remember who said it, but there was a quote. It was about doing music, and it's if you are doing this for any reason other than the music, you might as well just flip burgers, because it is more monetarily consistent and rewarding. Like, there's really no reason to do it other than for the art and for the community. And I look at being true to myself and true to others the same way. It really is just even if, because I'm not saying that if you have a job that you really need and your boss says something you don't 100% agree with, you should like cuss them out right then and then get fired and be like, whoa, I can't make rent. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that. You got to pick that's a big thing. You got to pick your battles. And you can communicate things in a forward thinking way, but still keeping that still keeping that root inside of you, that anchor of, I know what I believe in and I know what I feel is right. And sometimes that means stepping up, and sometimes that means, raising your hands and not saying anything.
Yeah.
And I would say, take people, give people the benefit of the doubt. I find that the vast majority of people mean what they say and say what they mean, and just want to have a good time and make sure that their loved ones are taken care of and just want to vibe out. And I feel the same. And it's, I'm not a pinnacle of self-confidence or anything, but I've done a lot of work, and I really have found that, I mentioned earlier that it takes a lot of strength and a lot of bravery to be vulnerable. And I do believe that. And so I find that sorry, a little cold. I find that a deeper, truer confidence has come in the past few years for me as I've been doing that, as I've been kind of dropping the shell or the wall, or whatever you want to call it, the mask, and just, there's that Mitski song, like, Stay Soft. Yeah. Like, if you just allow yourself to stay soft, keep your heart open. I have found a lot of confidence has come from that, and being around people that make you feel better before and after you hang out with them.
Yeah.
I
think being seen by the people that
Yeah.
you want to be seen by is just like the most validating thing. And I think,
Yeah.
especially when you make art that is so authentic to you, and like the more you continue doing that, you find your people, and then it's like,
Yeah.
the rest of it doesn't really matter,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, priorities just line up, and the superficial things just fall away. Yeah, when you just are true to yourself and make art that is true to you, yeah, I promise you will find that what you are looking for finds you. It's like a cat. You just let the cat come to you, and everything will be all right. Everything will line up.
Yeah. What are you most proud of as an artist about your work?
Oh, that's a great question.
Thank you.
What am I most proud of as an artist with my work? I'm proud that it's true to me, really. I'm proud that I am not thinking, okay, what are the top 5 songs in 2024, and let me create this song in a laboratory, make it scientifically made to get your bag, but that's just not how I like to operate, of doing that to kind of manufacture novelty or a viral hit. I try not to be a contrarian either. I don't make something specifically so people don't like it. But I'm glad that even though I feel like a big dork anytime I play or write anything, it really means a lot when, that anyone at all has ever been like, that was cool. I think that means everything to me.
Yeah.
So I'm proud that I have kind of let the dorkiness hang out while still making stuff that's meaningful to me. Not pushing down the dorkiness, but also not really using it as a shield either.
Yeah. I don't ever get that from you.
Cool.
I think you're so cool.
Yeah, I'm super not a huge nerd. Yeah.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think that's part of your
You're very right.
Coolness.
Oh, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
You're very right. Yeah, it's all about, when you're really cool, the coolest cool people are dorks also. Right. They're just cool.
Okay. Last question. Okay, so why do you think representation is important as a queer femme artist? And do you feel like we have good representation in the local music scene?
Good question. Representation matters. How are you going to know that a better future is possible if you don't see the seeds of it, or if you don't plant the seeds of it. Be the change you want to see in the world. Or I think isn't it Zach De La Roja who's like, what better time than now? I think representation is important for itself, but it doesn't only function for itself. It's also a means. It's a means of equity and equality, and it's a means of showing that not just the possibility of a brighter future, but the multitudes of the present. It's no secret that any outlet, I'm not even, whatever the medium is, if you're publishing something, it's published. It's a work. It's been edited and it's been kind of curated, and there's nothing wrong with that inherently. Our brain filters out most everything that we take in every day, but believe it or not, some people kind of use that for like political or social like oppression.
What?
Yeah. So I think that representation is really important for that, because that can just be, even if it's a hairline crack, that can be just one more thing of pressure on the wall of any kind of oppression. And it's also just more interesting. Cross-pollination is, what helps the biosphere. It is not, we didn't have like one kind of banana forever. There are different kinds of bananas. We may only see the yellow ones at the grocery store, but those are specific bananas that have been bred to be shipped. That's just an example. I don't know if bananas are a silly example or not, but I think it's a good metaphor.
Yeah. Putting the bi in biosphere.
Exactly. And so I think that representation is so important because even if that's just a drop of water in a desert, it still does matter, because that means there could be more. That means you could be somewhere around an oasis. There's plenty of things where that drop of water for me in terms of representation when I was younger, that I don't know where I would be if I hadn't had those. I had mentioned, like David Bowie earlier, big influence for a lot of people in terms of just like so many different things that could be possible. Big influence on even like something as like changing genre.
Yeah.
You could, I'm big fan of Laura Jane Grace's work. You could, I had listened to Against Me. I got into Against Me from my good friend Eli. Hi, Eli, guitar player, Gooetones. He got me into Against Me when I think we were like 11 or 12. And
wow.
Yeah. And so her story has meant so much to me, also for it not ending in tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
She is still touring, making, she's writing and recording jams. She's incredibly prolific. I don't know how she does it. But it's so cool to like, sometimes I open Instagram and it's just like her jogging and like taking care of herself. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. It's, not everybody crashes and burns, and it's cool that we have examples of that.
Yeah.
And as for us having it in Memphis, we absolutely do. Like with anything, it goes to the representation thing of that's just a passing glimpse through a window of all the multitudes of talent and expression we have in the city and in our country and the world. I don't think we're done yet. I think we have a long way to go. But even compared to 10 years ago,
I say this all the time.
Yeah, it's like a different world.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm not going to just get into old fogey Memphis corner and be like, I remember before the Black Lanes. But but I was thinking that today. It's like, yeah, it is different, and there's a lot to that. And we still have a long way to go, but I mean, it's worlds different, and I feel that especially nowadays, I feel the scene is more collaborative, and again, like, you know, I've been playing music since I was a kiddo, and it was, I mean, you know, there's also kids being kids, but there was a little bit of like, oh, we're like the cool musicians and you guys stink.
Yeah.
And I saw that in older musicians too. It wasn't just us kids. And that was even there in my early, you know, I say early adulthood, I'm not even 30, but right out of high school, that was even there. And we're far more, I find our scene to be much more empathetic and collaborative than it was. And it's not perfect by any means. But I feel that, I mean, representation and diversity and
so many more women.
Yes. Oh yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. I feel like 10 years ago, I didn't even feel comfortable going to shows.
Literally. Yeah. It was like it was much more macho back in the day. It was very like, oh, yeah, we're just guys being dudes.
Yeah. Like, what do you know about music? You're a girl, you know?
Yeah.
And now I feel like some of the best shows are like all female headliners.
Yeah, totally. And that's so, it's about, it's about once a show. Yeah. And it's not uncommon to have like all women lineups, and it's not just that's not the theme. It's just good artists, you know, and that means so much to me, that it's because don't get me wrong, like we still need that. We still need that structure.
But it's not a different category.
But we're seeing, like I feel exactly like women or femme is not a genre. That is just something that someone is. And playing on and seeing bills that are all women or all femme, it just means the world. Yeah, because it's I feel like there's more genre mixture now. It's just really inspiring. I mean, a lot of my favorite bands, a lot of my big influences are Memphis bands, you know, are bands that I share bills with. It's very inspiring to see.
Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting and yapping it up with me.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
This has been awesome. Sorry it's so cold. But,
it's okay.
You know,
we have these wonderful blankets.
At night, all right. Well, where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram at Gooetones901. That's goo as in goo, E as in E, tones as in tones, and the numbers 901, which is the Memphis area code. You can find us on Instagram, and that will direct you to our link tree. And I'm thinking about making a Substack or something. So I haven't done that yet, but I might. So you'll see on Instagram if I do.
Nice. And stream?
You can, yes, thank you. You can find us on all major streaming platforms under Gooetones. We have 2 songs, three songs out, right? 5 songs out right now. More to come. And Apple Music, Spotify, if you do that, YouTube, wherever, we're on there. Bandcamp, look up your next Bandcamp Friday.
Nice. All right. Well, y'all have a good rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.
Yay. We're out. That was so good.